Who in the Lord's name does Putin think gives him the right to declare new so-called countries on territory that belong to his neighbors? This is a flagrant violation of international law, and it demands a firm response from the international community.
Strong words from President Biden as he joins leaders from the UK and Germany in a global response now to Russian aggression in Ukraine. U.S. leaders saying Russia's latest moves into separatist regions mark the beginning of an invasion. Joining us once again to discuss the threat of war, we've got Aaron Katersky on the ground in Ukraine, Phil Lipoff in Poland, along with ABC News White House correspondent Mary Alice Parks, also ABC News national security and defense analyst Mick Mulroy. Aaron, let's get right to you. Has there been any reaction since we last spoke from Ukrainians about these penalties from the West? And is there a sense that this in any way, shape or form will be helpful to them?
Well, President Zelensky is expected to address his people still sometime tonight. It's getting late here, but we still expect to hear from President Zelensky. He was on the phone earlier today with President Biden and other world leaders, so he undoubtedly knew what was coming from the United States and its European allies, and he was clamoring for this. He said Ukraine is still committed to diplomacy, although it's hard to see diplomacy prevailing right now. President Biden even said when he listened to President Putin speak last night, he heard nothing that indicated any real interest in coming to the negotiating table. But the U.S. has been firm. We heard from the acting ambassador here in Ukraine, Christina Kavin, today, say that what President Putin has done is threaten an order that has maintain peace and stability throughout this area since World War II. So the United States is quite serious about this. We know Ukraine is certainly quite serious about this, and we expect to hear from President Zelensky sometime tonight.
And we await that, clearly, wanting to hear what he has to say since the president's speech. Mary Alice, you did have a chance, though, to speak to Ukraine's foreign minister. What did he tell you?
Yeah, I spoke with Ukraine's foreign minister last fall when he was in town, and it's notable because that he's been doing the rounds. He's been talking to American press. He's back in Washington, D.C. again today. We know that he just finished a meeting with President Biden at the White House. He's going on to meet with Secretary of Defense Austin, Secretary of State Blinken. Clearly, the White House wanting to keep him in the loop. The White House putting out a statement saying that in the meeting that he had with Biden, the White House reaffirmed its commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and was keeping the Ukrainian foreign minister abreast of everything that was going on. You know, when I spoke to him, I asked him specifically if he was appealing to the United States to send troops, U.S. troops, into Ukraine to help with the fight. He brushed that off. He said, of course not. That has not been something that's ever been on the table. President Biden has said it's not on the table. But, you know, then he sort of stiffened his spine. He stood up a little taller and he said, Ukrainians are ready to fight. They are prepared to fight, and they will fight to defend their borders. And that was a few months ago, Kira. So this is something Ukrainians have been thinking about and grappling with for years. And no doubt they're planning to fight if needed in the coming days.
And Phil, once again, you can talk more about what's happening with the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine, and also that members have started traveling back and forth from there to Poland, where you are now. What more can you tell us, and any other news or reactions since we heard the president speak about 40 minutes ago?
Well, there is a congressional delegation that came here yesterday, led by Senator Shaheen, and they came here to talk to Polish authorities and kind of take the temperature of what's happening in this area. You mentioned that members of our embassy are coming back and forth. It started last night, and last night to sleep here in Poland, to stay here for safety, it was just about last night. But as things progress, and they are progressing so quickly in this crisis, they now say that they're going to be doing that every day. You know, we first moved the embassy from Kyiv to Lviv, and now they're coming back and forth because it's just about 50 miles to the border. We have those troops here, 5,000 of them, that are working to plan for this refugee crisis, because if it happens, as Mary Alice lays it out, that eventually the Ukrainian people are going to have to stand up and potentially have to fight. And if it comes to that, and there is this movement into Ukraine by the Russians, well, then Ukrainians will come this way to the Polish border, and they will come into this country, at least try to come into this country. And that is in part why our troops are here. They're working with NATO allies. They're working with Polish authorities to try to figure out what happens if that happens and how this country deals with it.
Mick, you know, you've been in the action when sanctions like this have been implemented in the past. Do they work? Or is this just a part of the diplomatic process that you have to go through when the U.S. doesn't want to get involved in a full-out war? What are the chances here that in these moments when invasion has already begun, that this could, in some way, shape, or form, prevent Putin and his aggressive nature at this point?
So, Kira, unfortunately, no, they don't necessarily work. And that's not to say that we should do it, because there should be some cost for these types of actions. But I imagine that President Putin has already calculated the cost of these sanctions, even the most severe, into whether he wants to do this military action. So, unfortunately, I don't think this will stop President Putin and Russia from continuing on with their plans for an invasion. But I do think it's worth doing, as this needs to be a symbol, a message, a real message from the international community that this type of actions is unlawful and unjustified.
So the president said, Mick, two large Russian banks, the VEB and also the military bank, they are going to be completely cut off from any type of interaction with the West. So what does that mean? Kind of explain for the average viewer, how does that hit Putin? How does that impact how he leads on a daily basis?
So as everybody knows, the world is now interwoven when it comes to economics. And to cut somebody off from the international banking system through this SWIFT system can have significant consequences. I've talked to Russians recently who claim that there's a workaround. I don't know how effective that would be, and when pushed, they told me they didn't think it would be very effective. So I do think this will have an impact on Russia, their economy. But again, this is something that is far beyond just basic facts when it comes to President Putin. This is his obsession. He's talked about this for years. I think everybody's pointed out kind of the illogic nature of the speech that he gave yesterday. But in his mind, this is justified. And unfortunately for the rest of the world, he is the only one that matters when it comes to making decisions in Russia. So as illogical as this may be, if President Putin decides to go ahead, this will go ahead.
All right, Phil, Aaron, Mary Alice, Mick, thank you all so much. Appreciate it.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.